John, you got to cut out the music. Cut out the music. Because this is the music that got us pulled off of YouTube. All right.
I'm so excited on this side. 162. I can't even get any of the buttons right.
I hope you guys are enjoying watching this on everywhere but YouTube. This is why nobody watches this on YouTube.
Hey,
despite the fact that we literally have
I make
permission
mistakes.
to use that
Every
song.
once in a while, Sean makes a mistake. Okay. Sorry, Twos.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Twos is so
honored.
perfect. So perfect. Not even close.
Isn't it ironic that between the two of us, you're the one who gets us pulled off of YouTube?
That isn't ironic. I got my entire channel removed from YouTube. So
I know,
it's
but
kind of
you
standard
would think
operating
that
procedure.
if any of us was going to be the one that would get us pulled off of YouTube, it would not be you. It would be me. And yet here we are. Okay.
Here we are.
Real quick rant. People always ask me, Twos, what's the hardest job in the world? And some people are like, oh, mother is the hardest job. Or some people will be like, you know what? Jumping out of a plane with an M16 and shooting at bad guys is a pretty tough job. Maybe, probably. But the hardest job in the world is running the checkout counter at a grocery store. And you can always tell this because they always have to have the wrist brace. I don't know of any other job where you're doing something that requires you to preemptively wear a wrist brace every time you're scanning a bag of frozen peas. And I've never done the job, but there's something about it that just must absolutely destroy people because they have to wear the wrist braces all the time.
Can I say I enjoy your shirt choice today? Shout
Yes,
out to
yes, thank
Dill
you.
Wilker. Yeah, the old blue truck farm.
You like this shirt?
I do.
Yeah, I got it a couple weeks ago.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just magically showed up.
Dale Wilker sent you a shirt.
No. You stayed at my house and you forgot it. And I said, well, this is perfect. I'm going to wear it on the Mashup.
Well, there you go. I like it. That's Dale Wilker. So the old blue truck farm. Anyways, he's the graphic artist that has done the. Remember when it's got to be years ago now when we were doing the story about the PETA, and then he drew it wrestling.
Oh yes,
right.
Wrestling
He's the guy who drew. Yeah. Wrestling the rooster.
Well, you're never getting this shirt back now. Then
that's the guy. So
okay.
Anyways,
well, hey Dale, thanks for the shirt.
I think it looks better on you, anyways, too. I'm, just saying.
Yeah, appreciate that.
There you go. Mashup 162, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Good morning. It's a Friday, and I think there's lots of things that are definitely notable to talk about today. And we got a guy sitting in the back. We're going to talk about some of that. We got a full list of things to do today. And Sean's excited, and he can't seem to get any of the buttons right. So we'll see if that continues or if we clean our act up here. Either way, 162, I don't think you've come to expect any different from us two yahoos on this side. If you're watching, make sure to like, share, and let's go Panthers. Yes, I'm required to read all the headlines. So if you have a check, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Who put a question mark on the teleprompter? Come on. Everybody knows Ron Burgundy.
I hope that doesn't come back to haunt you at any point, Sean.
Oh, well, maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I feel pretty good. Old Leon doing what he does in OT. Finds a way to score one. And old Pickard walking in. Good morning, Joe Mama. Pickard comes in, saves the day. And hasn't lost in the playoffs.
Enough about that.
Okay. Happy Airborne Friday to everyone, Jamie Sinclair and the boys. One of the things we do here is give a shout out to all the military men out there. And then let's start off with the Coot 6.5, shall we? Viva Fry had a tweet. Meanwhile, in Canada, a convicted pedophile is allowed to serve his sentence within the community because of modest size of the collection and the fact that the distribution discussion was with other like-minded individuals online.
Yes. So apparently the considerations for this light sentence for child pornography was that A, it wasn't a lot of child pornography. And B, he was only sharing it with other pedophiles. Now,
and C, it was over a short duration. They also said it was just a short duration.
The really obvious question here is when you've got a judge or anybody looks at, look at a collection of tools or something like that. Like I say, hey, come into the garage, check out all these tools I have. And you say, you don't have that many tools. It's because presumably you have some kind of a reference point. You've seen collections of tools, baseball cards, you name it. When people look at them, they're like, that's a big collection, or that's an average collection, or that's a small collection. Comic books, whatever. And the judge looked at this and said, it's not like it's a lot of child pornography. Like, I've seen more. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that the Kelowna police should maybe look at that guy's laptop. Because if part of his decision was to look at it and say, it's not like it's a lot of child pornography, presumably he has some kind of perspective on it.
There's a good chance I may have committed some light treason. There's a good chance.
Right? You don't just do this a little bit. Like, it was only a small murder. The guy you killed was only barely dead. This is insane. It's straight up insane. And so we had that article. And then the other one here. Crossfield man sentenced in 2024 child pornography case. That's not exactly true. And yet another reason why we hate the media. This guy was working at the school, and his job was to do one-on-one care of a nonverbal, severely mentally handicapped child. And he was charged originally with molestation and with creation and distributing of child pornography and with possession of child pornography. And it looks like in order to plea down, the other charges were dropped and he was just convicted mostly of time already served, by the way, for this. This is totally like, we talk about like protecting the most vulnerable people in our communities. It doesn't get much more vulnerable than a special needs kid who's incapable of telling anybody if things are going sideways. And this guy just ended up being convicted mostly of time served of the lesser charges. Now, I'm guessing, without knowing for sure, but I'm guessing part of it was that you can't really talk about how dark this situation is without making it a big spectacle for that kid and for the families and friends and everything like that and everybody in the community. But at the same time, this is fucking unacceptable. Just beyond.
I have nothing to add. All these things going on with kids, and it's painful.
Yeah.
It's beyond, I don't have a word. I don't know. At the I just think of Yellowstone. Maybe the train station should come,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are we bringing you want to bring in?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Let's bring in Jamie real quick.
All right. Well, welcome back to the show, Mr. Sinclair, Jim Sinclair. I think the audience knows all about you. You've been a guest of the show multiple times. You've taken over the host this chair multiple times. Welcome back, Jim.
He's basically trying to just be the he's trying to turn this duo into a trio. I was gonna say a threesome, and I'm like, that's not quite right.
Don't say that. Hey, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I keep getting the mashup music in the background. Is the mashup music still playing?
Mashup music is still not playing, and you are really, really slow and behind.
And faint.
Okay. How about I just reset everything and then I'll link back in. How's that sound?
All right,
good.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We'll kick him out. All right. Let's roll. Pride cometh before the fall. Pride Toronto faces $900,000 shortfall after major sponsors pull out. With just weeks to go before one of Canada's largest festivals, Pride Toronto is still grappling with a wave of sponsor withdrawals that has left them nearly $900,000 short, prompting urgent calls from the organization, individuals, and the government to step in. Pride Toronto's executive Kojo Modeste confirmed the organization lost major backers, including Google, Home Depot, Nissan, Clorox, and the list went on.
Clorox? I'm guessing like a container of Clorox wipes might be just considered an aphrodisiac in some circles.
You realize Pride Toronto is the largest Pride festival in all of North America? They spend $5 million
on a parade.
On a parade.
On a parade. Maybe, like, how expensive is glitter? Really?
That I don't know. I was like,
that's insane. Well, it's funny because a few weeks ago we talked about how there was a $700,000 budgeting shortfall, and now there's a $900,000 budgeting shortfall, and they're being dicks about it. Like, they're calling out, rather than saying to Home Depot or to Clorox, you guys sponsored us in the past. We appreciate it. We're disappointed that you're not continuing the relationship, but the door's always open. Right? Like that would be the magnanimous way to handle this. To say, hey, you know what? You guys used to give us a whole bunch of free money. You're not doing it this year. And yeah, obviously we prefer to get the money, but that's fine. I understand. You can't support everything all the time. Instead, you don't walk away from us when our house is on fire, and when we rebuild, you try to come back. For the ones that walked away today, they're going to have to demonstrate that they are ready and have done the work in order to come back. I can tell you right now, they're never fucking coming back. Not after that. Because here's the other thing is that now, if you, let's say you had a banner year, you sponsor them 1 year because you don't even know what to do with all the money that your company made. Sure. Yeah. Here's $100,000 or something like that. And then they come knocking next year and you say, look, we didn't make as much money. We don't have the spare funds. Sorry. You can try again later. And then they try and publicly shame you for not having that money the second year. Well, other companies are going to look at that and say, well, fuck, if we sponsor them once and then don't do it in every subsequent year afterwards, we're in the news for being dicks. So we're just going to stay away from this entirely. It's such a bad strategy. It's just silly and stupid and pretty fucking gay.
Ferries.
Yeah.
Different type of ferry. Ferries get pounded from both sides during Pride Month. Ferries get pounded from both sides during Pride Month. Criticism comes from all sides after BC Ferries awarded contracts to Chinese state-owned company. On Tuesday, BC Ferries announced it had signed a deal with Chinese state-owned Weihai shipyards to build 4 new vessels between 2026 and 2031 as replacements for its oldest ships. Nicholas Jimenez, the corporation CEO, has defended the choice by saying that there were no Canadian companies that applied for the project. In September, though, Vancouver-based shipbuilder Seaspan said that Canadian shipyards and their supply chains cannot compete with low-wage countries that have lower employment standards, lower environmental standards, and lower safety standards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same argument we have in oil and gas, where it's like, well, yeah, they're obviously able to produce it with much lower environmental impact and with less emissions of carbon dioxide, because whenever there's an HR grievance, you just settle it with an AK-47. Whenever there's a spill, you just leave it out in the desert. You don't have to worry about remediation. You don't need to worry about reclaiming nature. And believe it or not, communist dictators aren't really known for having strong unions, for example. And so, yeah, they can't compete. But here's the thing, is their solution to saying, hey, we can't compete, is to say, we need a whole bunch of free money from the government. Rather than saying, why don't we make part of the procurement process to look at, building standards and employee standards and environmental standards and have that weighted in the consideration. That would be the obvious thing. And then, okay, yeah, you know what? We're going to pay an extra $2 million, but it's $2 million going to somewhere that isn't a communist dictatorship. So, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like the standard thing to do in Canada is when you want something, you ask for money. You just,
Yep.
in order to be competitive, we need a lot of money from the government, and we'll get into
which
some
means
of that.
that you're not competitive, by the way. And look, I get the fact that you're not going to be able to compete on price alone with a communist dictatorship. And that's fair as long as it's reflected in the bid process. But none of the Canadians not a single Canadian company even applied for this.
Separation.
Yes.
Federal divorce proceedings. The latest from Think HQ polling, the question: if a provincial referendum was held tomorrow asking Albertans if they would like to remain in Canada or become an independent country, how would you most likely vote? Remain said 64%, leave 29%, the rest are unsure. When the question is whether a person would consider supporting Alberta leaving Canada, the number who would consider backing an exit from Confederation goes to 36%. Here in Alberta, the Alberta NDP, 99% are Remain supporters. I don't think that shocks me or twos.
No.
Alberta UCP Remain, only 31%, leave 58%, and 11% are unsure.
That's a big deal. 58% of the voters for the current governing party
58%
want to leave. And so whenever this gets painted as like this extremist thing, and Naheed Nenshi gets in front of a camera and a microphone and talks down to everybody like they're pieces of shit, which is just how he has conversations. But what he's saying is that, oh, he's kowtowing to the fringe separatists. Well, no. Actually, technically, mathematically speaking, people who are UCP supporters who want to stay in Canada are the fringe.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're sitting there watching this, you see 58%. And I just had Martin Armstrong on the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying he did a deep dive research into, a bunch of separation movements throughout history. And he was shocked because he thought it would, he would need to have 50% or 70% or whatever the number is to get something like that through. And what he found was it was 15% or less on everyone except one. So he was saying, well, 15% of people in an area is all you needed, because there was a majority of people that would go along with whatever the minority pushed, and 15% was the number. So when you read 58%, you're like, holy crap, that's higher than all of his research showed. So I thought that was very interesting. And I think
by a significant margin.
By a significant margin. Yeah, you're not talking, we got 17% and everybody writes that off. Even if they write it off,
you've got almost quadruple.
Correct. Like, I mean, that's a high number.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Look, one of my things is that regardless of where it is or who it is or whatever it is, the smaller group should be deferred to. So, for example, when Toronto said they wanted to ban handguns, I said, this is stupid. It's idiotic, but I don't live in Toronto. I shouldn't be the one deciding. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, what should be happening with any idea about separation or secession or anything like that, regardless of where it is in the world or the country, the default should be to leave. And you should be required to get a clear majority to stay in Canada, because you need to have a situation where people actually want to be here, like where it's mutually beneficial. And Canada has done an impeccable job of not doing that over the years.
There was one other article here. Former federal conservative cabinet minister Rona Ambrose says the secessionist
sentiment in Alberta
is unwelcome source of uncertainty for investors, but it could fizzle out quickly if Ottawa handles it right. Ambrose, now the deputy chair at TD Security, said Tuesday there's a feeling of resentment in Alberta and in neighboring Saskatchewan. Quoted, I think that it can dissipate quite quickly if some of these underlying issues around how the energy sector has been treated by Ottawa are dealt with.
And not even just the energy sector, like all of it. The equalization, the dairy cartel, all of this stuff.
Do you think the federal government in the next year can do enough to dampen what is simmering in Alberta and Saskatchewan, I might add?
No, because it requires a little bit of acknowledging the fact that they've been dicks. And if there's anything that people in Ottawa are really bad at, aside from government, it's acknowledging when you've been a dick.
Yeah, when they've gotten anything wrong.
Like, here's the thing. Okay, so look at the members of parliament. I talked about this last week. When has anyone ever stood up in that House of Commons and said, thank you to the people who we take half of their damn money so that I can be here in this cushy job? When was the last time somebody from fucking Quebec sent you a thank you letter for the $5,000 that you send per person in your household to those whiny fucking bastards? When? Ever. Yves-Francois Blanchette? There's never any, you know what? We don't like Alberta, but we get a lot of free shit from them, and maybe we shouldn't be jerks. Nothing.
Do you want to talk about all these other the other polls from Polling Canada? You want me to show them on screen?
Well, I'm just going to hit a couple real quick.
Sure.
Those who agree, my province feels treated fairly by the national government. Ontario, 81%. Quebec, 48%. British Columbia, 46%. Manitoba, 44%. Alberta, 32%. Saskatchewan, 30%. The right number here is somewhere probably just shy of 50%. Because generally speaking, if you're reaching something of a fixed pie agreement and both sides walk away feeling like they ended up just a little bit on the short side of it, that's probably an indication that it was a fair deal. Because if somebody says, yeah, I definitely got the best deal out of that, it's probably even more of a better deal than they think. And you've got 81% of people in Ontario feeling like the government treats them fairly. That number is way too fucking high. I'll tell you that right now. Western Canada complains too much. Quebec, 56%. Quebec thinks Alberta complains too much. That is the pot calling the kettle Canada's last prime minister. The NDP commissioned a poll in Saskatchewan to try and show exactly how fringe and crazy this separatism thing is, and made the dumb mistake of releasing the results, which said that over 40% of Sask Party voters support a referendum on separation. So that's not a fringe. This one, though. If Albertans choose to leave Canada, should the federal government allow separation to happen? No, 56. Yes, 32. They don't have a say in it. If the referendum vote goes through, they don't get to say that, no, we're not going to acknowledge that. If this is done by the books and Albertans say, yes, we want to go alone, the federal government does not have a say in it anymore, aside from trying to negotiate the terms. They don't get to stop it. And then this is interesting. So Danielle Smith said she wouldn't consent to the creation of any new federal parks in Canada, which you need the consent of the provincial party to make any new parks federally. And then Andrew Coyne, just the classic asshole Laurentian elitist, says, that's okay. Your consent is not required. And I just want to say, Andrew, that's a really odd thing to say to a woman.
Jim, are you back there? Are you like I see him coming in, I see him going out. Let me
just get something.
Okay. All right. Well, we're doing that. Let's talk about Bill C-202.
Okay. Bill C-202. Here, I'll pop it up. Okay. And just not forgive me. Give me a moment here. Okay. Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development Act. Section 10 of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development Act is amended by adding the following after subsection 2. In exercising and performing the powers, duties, and functions set out in subsection 2, the minister must not make any commitment on behalf of the government of Canada by international trade or treaty or agreement that would have the effect of A, increasing the tariff rate quota within the meaning of subsection 2.1 of the customs tariff applicable to dairy products, poultry, or eggs, or B, reducing the tariff applicable to those goods when they are imported in excess of the applicable tariff rate quota.
Yes. Now, for people watching along, throw in the comments if you have a Conservative member of Parliament what their last name is. real quick. Okay, so for example, for me, so this, I guess to sum it up, this is a protectionist bill designed to protect the dairy cartel from international competitors. Okay, that's what this is. This is protectionism for the dairy cartel and eliminating or reducing the ability of foreign entrants into our dairy quota system. Now, this, given that over half of the dairy farms in Canada are in fucking Quebec, this is a bill that was put forward by the Bloc. Okay, now, Lisa Ferguson, she says her MP is Stubbs, Shannon Stubbs. Now, here it is. Here's her name right there on the right-hand side. Mine is Stevenson. There he is just above it. Okay, Michelle Rempel Garner, she's on the list. Look at that. Okay, Couric. Okay, Couric, he's the guy parachuting out, but yeah, there it is. Battle River Crowfoot. Couric. This passed unanimously. So for everybody in Western Canada who has a member of parliament who's conservative, they didn't vote for your local interests. They voted for the dairy cartel in fucking Quebec.
333 to 0 is what the vote was.
333 to 0. So my new guy, Stevenson, just gets elected. Brand new member of parliament. Gets on a plane, flies to Ottawa, hasn't even kicked the Alberta dirt off of his boots yet, and he's already voting for the interests of fucking Quebec. Listen, Stevenson, Stubbs, everybody. We already have enough members of parliament whose job it is to represent the interests of fucking Quebec and fucking Ontario and the fucking Maritimes in this fucking shit show of a fucking country. You don't need to be doing it for them.
I feel like you and Jamie have been taking lines from each other. Jim, what say you this morning?
Well, thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me good? Or is,
We can actually hear you.
yeah,
Do you
way
want to
better now.
disappear off the screen again, or are you going to stick around for a couple
I'm
seconds?
good. I think China's hacking my internet here.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, thanks for letting me on here. I was talking to Steve because Sean wouldn't answer his phone, but there's something going on.
Why is that? What do I do Friday mornings? Everybody knows what I do.
What is
I know
I
Twos?
literally
What is
put my phone
Twos?
off.
The guy named
Listen, I know
Twos.
you
What does
don't get up
Twos
early.
do Friday morning?
I know you don't get up early and get ready. Like you're like sleeping when I call you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to get up. Just get up and get some shit done. You'll feel a lot better about the day. So, anyways,
Real quick, Jamie. Zane says David Bexty for Bow River is his MP. Here's his name highlighted right there. There's Bexty voting after that great speech he gave last week about how all of the politicians in Ottawa have forgotten the people in Alberta. The next thing he does is vote for the fucking dairy cartel. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right. So anyways, I was talking to Steve this morning at Twos. And anyways, I was talking to him about the Israeli strikes on Iran, and he didn't quite know what was going on there. So I said, well, if you want me, I can come on and maybe just give you an update. So first and foremost, there's people that are in harm's way, and they're Iranians and they're Muslims, but they're still, at the end of the day, they're humans, and they're going through something pretty horrific. So, my prayers are out to all those people, and I hope them all the best and what their country is going to be going through in the next little bit here. So Israel's attacked Iran. Back in 1979, the Iranian people were put under Islamic law by the Ayatollah. So there's two different levels of government. You got your government that runs the day-to-day stuff. Then you got your religious leaders that basically tell the government what's going to happen. And the people of Iran are really the ones that are going to suffer the most. And they want regime change. So hopefully this goes well and people stand up against their government. Unfortunately, like most dictatorships, they disarm the Iranian people. So they're already at a behind the eight ball in their way that they can protest their government. So I wish them all the best. So in 2000, roughly mid 2000s,
Jim, you. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
they went to the United Nations and said, "Hey, listen, like if Iran gets to a position where they can launch nukes at either Israel or at the United States, they're going to go in and stop it." So it's got to that level, and they've decreed that death to Israel, death to the United States, right? So that's what's going on here now. So that's why they're doing this. So today, the Mossad commandos they performed brilliant attacks inside of Iran, attacking all their missile areas, attacking the head of the government, the head of all the military leadership, and they've been very successful so far.
What makes them brilliant?
So they are. They basically for 20 years have been setting up this attack, and they're so deep within the Iranian system that these agents have been undetected, and they've been able to mass large numbers of these commandos inside of Iran to carry out these commando attacks. These attacks have also been followed up by airstrikes on all the Iranian top headquarters, all of their missile and drone sites. They've also destroyed all the airports. They've gone after all of their naval ports as well. So they basically crippled them like within the last 12 hours or so. Now
Jim,
the nuclear sites have also
They
been,
just went Order 66 on them.
Yeah, basically. So this is going to be a multi-stage attack. There'll be other countries getting involved. I believe that now that the Israelis have the missile areas and the nuclear areas disabled in their air defense, the Americans will launch their heavy bombers out of the Arabian Sea to go and take down do all the deep bombing that needs to be done on these bunkers that are like 300 feet underneath the ground that store all this nuclear capacity, and where they refine all the uranium so it's nuclear grade. So yeah, it's gonna be horrific for the next little while. And there's lots of countries that come to the Israelis side, being Jordan. Jordan has launched their aircraft to shoot down Iranian drones, which was their first response as the drones came out of Iran. So they've been shooting them down over Iraq. Qatar is also sided with Israel, which is very, very, not like a Muslim country to do. And they've also been shooting down drones for Israel. Yeah, so there's Hamas in up in Lebanon. They've actually surrendered to Israel already after this strike happened. So there's lots of things happening, and so the Houthis are going to be, I don't know what their response is going to be, but they'll be on the side of Iran. But there's not too many people that are supporting them, and there'll be your obvious, North Korean and China and all of them will be behind Iran. Maybe even Russia. We'll see where they stand. But yeah, this is interesting, and it's kind of odd that nothing's been said about Trump's assassination attempt. There was some links back to Iran, and that's been pretty quiet, like crickets out there. So a lot of stuff is going to be coming out about what's going on and how the American involvement has been. They've been planning this for years. Like I said, Trump gave them 60 days to comply with the regulations that the United Nations set on Iran. This is 61 days later. So it's kind of like this response has been well planned and well timed. So anyways, I pray for those people over there, and I hope that they get out of this without being harmed too much. And it's not in the Americans or the Israelis' interest to harm civilians. So I can't see them purposely targeting them. But what the Iranians will do is start putting people around there's sites that they don't want to get hit, and it's horrific. But that's what I could foresee in the future.
Jamie,
so that's all I got.
Well, one question before we let you off. When you're looking at, all the discussion around World War III, right? Does this put us closer to that? I mean, obviously, I assume it does, but, or do you look at it differently?
Well, I always look at China as because they're the ones behind the scene, smoke and mirrors kind of thing. They've got us heavily engaged with Europe in Ukraine right now. Now we're engaged in the Middle East with Israel, potentially the United States also jumping into that boat to get rid of the nuclear threat in Iran. So what is China going to do around Taiwan now? Like a lot of resources are being gobbled up by what's happening in those areas of the world. So it's really going to depend on what China does. If China goes after Taiwan now, it's going to be it'll be balls out, like people will be going bananas. So let's pray that there's some calmer heads around and we can prevent that from happening. So
appreciate you hopping on, Jim.
I hope you have some happy news. Sorry, I got to run, but it's grass cutting day, and I got stuff to do here. And I got
Jim. People have been asking, what's your campsite, and how can people find it?
Well, they got to come to God's country, good old Saskatchewan. Yep. And we're located at Regina Beach. We're about 700 meters from the lake. And so, yeah, it's right in Regina Beach.
Does it have a name?
Yep, Regina Beach Campground.
Okay.
Right there.
And I assume they can.
We got Facebook, we got email.
Yeah.
So people can reach out to us, and best thing to do is just bombard Sean with text messages asking for my phone number, because I've been like, people have been phoning me, and I've been like, yeah, it'd be good to see you. Come on down, we'll have a beer around the bonfire. So
find him online, folks. Find him online. It's not a big deal if you
get home with Sean.
Yeah,
he loves it.
Thanks,
you can
Jim.
text Sean.
Right.
Just text Sean anytime you want.
Yeah, love you guys.
Thanks,
all right,
Jim.
Thank you.
All right, let's. Thanks to Jim for hopping on, and yeah, you can text me if you want to track down Jim and his campground.
Okay,
I'm not too put off by that.
And Vern had asked about Tom Kamiak. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but yeah, you can see here he's highlighted. He voted yes for that. So,
all right, auditor. Federal government organizations repeatedly violated the procurement rules as they awarded GC Strategies, Inc., the main firm behind the pandemic ArriveCan scandal, nearly $100 million in contracts over a 9-year period without proper oversight, Canada's Auditor General has concluded in a new report. Auditor General Karen Hogan found federal agency failed to justify procurement methods and contract costs following security measures and monitoring the work of GC Strategies, ultimately falling short in showing value for the money spent, and even paying contractors without proof of work was done.
Yes. She said there's a video. Well, here, I could show it here real quick. I'll show maybe like the last little bit of it, where she says that basically everything went wrong.
10 departments. In this audit, there's 31 federal organizations, including one Crown and departments. And we found issues in almost every contract that we looked at, which tells me that there's no reason to believe it's limited to these two. And it's time for the public service to go back to the basics and understanding procurement rules and why they should be followed.
Yes. So, you know how I say that it's not as though like it would just be insane to think that the media started lying to us as soon as we were better able to fact check them. This is the same thing. She looked into a whole bunch of these, and almost every single audit was a huge failure. So the logical conclusion is that the more they would look at, the more they would find. To think that it was limited just to the ones they happened to audit would be silly. And now the company is banned from having government contracts for the next 7 years. The company. Now, there's nothing stopping them from starting a new numbered company and getting contracts under that.
Correct. Yeah.
But also, even if they had to wait 7 years, they got $100 million. I think I could live pretty comfortably for the next 7 years and then start applying again afterwards. These are the repercussions they faced. I want to know what repercussions the bureaucrats who sidestepped all of these transparency things and the due diligence, I want to know what repercussions they're facing. Because I can tell you right now that if I worked for any company and I just gave away $100 million without any of the correct paperwork, I would not be working there anymore.
9 Ontario men arrested after the largest drug seizures in the history of Peel region, with 479 kilograms of cocaine seized worth $47.9 million. Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the laughter, sing for the tear. And as you can tell, there's Gardit Singh, Karmajit Singh, Manpreet Singh, Sarajat Singh. I mean, it just goes on. 5 of them are Singhs. Yeah, you get the point.
Okay. Yes, exactly. Now, I might have accidentally not put this in here. Was there anything in there about the new street in
Nope.
in Victoria? Oh, shoot. Nope. Okay. All right. Well, here's a rapid fire one. Pull that down. We got this here, and we got a special headline for you.
I don't even know how to read that. I mean, obviously it's in I don't know. Is that Cree? Is it doesn't matter. But
It's in Musqueam. It's in the Hankminam language of the Musqueam First Nations. And it says Musqueam Street.
Well, I mean,
believe that you wouldn't get that right.
In fairness, to Calgary's got the same thing.
No, they don't.
Right.
What street?
Over by the Grey Eagle Casino. There's a whole I forget what
well, like
that
Sutina.
Is.
There's Sutina Drive.
Sure.
But at least it's written in English.
Fair enough.
Like, how do you, if you got to call an
enough.
ambulance, you got to call an ambulance, you got to call the police station. Like, this is insane. This is the actual name. Vancouver's newest street name is set to be the city's first officially named in an alphabet other than English. Street. Like, they literally,
could I get an ambulance to over?
Well, exactly. Like, what happens
if
if
there's
there's
go back to?
emergency?
You know where there's that blue building? You take a left after it. You head over to the next one. There's a homeless guy sitting there with a sign that reads this. You hang it right there, and you go to the big boulder. That's what's going to happen out of this. We're going to go back to old farmer directions.
Yeah, if you see the van with a flat tire in the driveway, you've gone too far. Right? This is how the directions are going to be. Like, this is insane. Like, look at this. It's an S with a thing on it. X, superscript W, M, upside down E, theta, K.
Well, yeah, right.
Superscript W.
I mean, you don't have to go through it. And like, I get, like, I don't even.
Like, it's like they took the lyrics from Freak on a Leash, the Korn song, and they're like, let's just turn that into a street name. Like, Sumakisam, Papum, Datapum, Sakwadisam.
Who do you sound like? Jar Jar Binks. That's.
I mean, I might be saying it correctly. For all anybody knows, that might be exactly how to say it
Does
correctly.
anything at this point surprise anyone on this show? Is anybody sitting there going, I'm surprised? Mashup 162. Does anything surprise us anymore?
That one kind of did. Like, it's just,
I don't
the
know,
virtue signaling is going a little bit too far. And I'm saying that while living in this fucking country, that the virtue signaling is getting a little bit extreme.
I'm curious in the comments. Is anybody surprised? Are you surprised at this point? Or are you just like, nope? Because I have a hard time. Twos can follow up on the comments when we get there. Regardless, I'm not surprised. Everybody laughing because that was great. That was Jar Jar Binks reading that right there. Premier Danielle Smith and 3 of her ministers on Wednesday night were in southern Alberta for an hours-long town hall to discuss the province's coal policy. About 500 people packed a community hall in Fort Macleod. And the town hall came weeks after the Alberta energy regulator granted an Australian-based coal company permission to start a controversial coal exploration on the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains. Northback Holding Corp's project at Grassy Mountain was initially rejected in 2021 with a panel ruled that the likely environmental effects on fish and water quality outweighed the potential economic benefits. Late last year, the project was exempted from Alberta's government's decision to ban open pit coal mines because Northback's application was considered an advanced proposal. The issue has been polarized in the southern Alberta when the debate has primarily revolved around the economic implications of development against environmental effects.
So Danielle Smith's basic argument is that when the NDP were in charge and they put the moratorium on coal, it left them with some contract clauses that were very expensive. I think in this case, $15 billion.
$15 billion. She said,
And
if we do nothing, then we were told we will likely lose those cases because they have here. Smith also frequently cited a lawsuit by 5 coal companies that said they're owed $15 billion by the province in lost revenues and sunk costs. And she said, if we do nothing, then we are told we'll likely lose those cases and have to pay $15 billion.
Now, so her argument presumably is that regardless of whether this makes sense or not, we have to go through it because otherwise we'll owe them $15 billion. And so there's a bunch of people who say that this shouldn't happen. My understanding is that they did, I want to say Pincher Creek, but I don't think that was exactly right. Crow's Nest Pass. They did a survey in Crow's Nest Pass. So the people who actually live in this neighborhood, and it was something like 72% were for it. Now, I get it. The mountains are shared by everybody, but at the same time, these are the people who it's more their mountains than it is everybody else. And let's be honest, it's not like there's a lack of them in this fucking place, right?
A non-binding referendum in Crow's Nest Pass saw 70% of voters saying they'd support the nearby coal project.
Yes.
70%.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I said 72, and that was outrageously off the mark.
I'm just making sure we're getting it accurate, Twos.
Okay. So 70% of the people in this community want it to happen. But the people in Edmonton or wherever these eco people are coming from say no, they don't want it to happen. And that doesn't mean that their concerns are unfounded. But I think a little bit of perspective here is important and maybe a little bit of knowledge. And so to the UCP's credit, they said that they're getting a bunch of studies done right now to look at what the expected outcomes are going to be. And apparently there is like one species or one, not even species of fish, but there's one group of fish in one lake that would be negatively affected, which Alberta doesn't have a ton of great fishing already. But I don't know. It's interesting, and it's a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of details. And if you're going to make a big decision like this, you need the details and not the rhetoric.
Federal government moving ahead with new pay system to replace Phoenix. Public Works and Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound announced Wednesday that the government is moving ahead to the final build and testing phase of the Dayforce HR and pay solution for government employees, replacing the Phoenix pay system. The government of Canada remains committed to modernizing its HR and pay system in a responsible and transparent manner. By investing in future of HR and pay, we are taking an important step forward in ensuring an efficient, secure, and sustainable future for our public service employees. At least $3.5 billion has been spent by the government on the Phoenix pay system since 2017. Twos, $3.5 billion. And there are 327,000 transactions waiting to be processed through the system, including 331,000 financial transactions and 9,000 transactions related to collective bargaining agreements.
Now, it's interesting. We like to talk about how stupid people in the media are in this country, or at least I do. They said 327,000 transactions waiting to be processed, including 331,000 and 9,000. Now, if you add those two together, it says that there are 327,000 transactions, including 340,000 transactions specifically mentioned. Their math is off in either A, B, C, or all of them. And nobody ever thought, Nobody on the copy desk said, wait a second.
Did I ever
Wait a
mention?
second.
I think you're at your best when you just pick apart the grammar, like how they've structured a headline or the actual story. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but Tuz is at his best when he just is like, this doesn't even make sense. The story's like, okay, that's the story, but let's look at how they wrote this. It doesn't make sense. For those who don't know, Tuz constantly calls me when I do something on different things and I write things and he just pulls me apart. And I've come to it's an uncomfortable place to have Tuz pull
It's
apart
a
what you've written.
thing. It's
Yes.
a love-hate thing.
Yes, but I think on this show, when you're pulling apart the how they've written things, I'll give you all the time in the world, Tuz. Fire
All right.
away.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one. More than $150 million has been spent looking into a new platform to replace the pay system. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that if you are you're doing an RFQ or an RFP, excuse me, for something that is going to pay billions of dollars in a number of years, you don't need to spend $150 million. You can go to whatever companies you want, like Payworks, Phoenix Pay, whatever. Be like, look, I am not going to pay out of pocket to analyze your stuff. You are going to pay out of pocket to send me all the information I need and give me access to whomever I need to speak to. And they will say, well, if we get this contract, we're going to be literally making billions of dollars. So yes,
Correct.
we are obviously fine with that. You don't need to spend $150 million of taxpayer money to do something that we would be doing already on our own for free in the private sector. This is the Trans Mountain Pipeline all the fuck over again.
Student charged with attempted murder in a sword attack in Brandon. A 15-year-old boy who was seriously injured in a sword attack at Brandon, Manitoba High School is in Brandon, Manitoba High School, I should say, is in stable condition as another student faces an attempted murder charge. I don't know. Do you need any more information than that?
Some kid tried to kill another kid at high school
with a sword.
With a fucking sword.
Correct. Nobody is buying.
What kind of sword? I want to know what kind of sword. Was it a katana? Was it like a Zweihander? Was it a bastard sword? Was it a long sword? Was it a machete?
I don't know if I need to know the sword. I think it's wild that some kid almost died at the hands of a kid with a sword. I think you could probably make a few
guesses as to what happened if you knew what kind of sword.
Okay. Nobody is buying new condos in Toronto. Nobody. Over 80% of Toronto area condos now selling for under asking, says new House Sigma data. A whole generation of people have been taught that property values only head in one direction, up. 66% of homes in the GTA went from under asking price in the first quarter of 2025 compared to 46% in 2022. And about 80% of condos in the region went for less than the list price in the first part of the year compared to 49% in 2022.
This is a graph of the months of supply for pre-construction condominium apartments. Now, because it's months of supply, it's going to be automatically adjusted for population, because the larger the population, the more houses are going to be bought, and therefore it's just going to equalize. So this is a really good apples to apples comparison over time. The start of the graph is January of 2004, and it goes all the way to January of 2025. So over 21 years, the highest it ever got to was when the housing bubble crashed. It got a little over 20 months. And it's currently just shy of 60. It is very nearly triple the worst it's ever been in the last 21 years, including during the bubble bursting in 2008.
Correct. Canada sets record for number of refugee claims. Canada's moved up one spot to become the fourth largest recipient country of asylum seekers, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. Last year, Canada received a record 174,000 new refugee claims of the 3.1 million new claims reported worldwide. The country was also second largest resettlement country globally, welcoming 49,300 refugees in 2024 and led the world in granting permanent residence to 27,400 refugees.
The thing that I always wonder whenever I read these articles is what are the finer points of what it takes to be a refugee? Like if I was born and raised in Nebraska and I came to Canada, could I claim to be a refugee? What does it take? What's the criteria you need to meet? Like, do you have to be leaving an active war zone? Do you need this? Do you need that? What does it take to be able to check that box and have it recognized as you being a refugee? And what kind of fact checking do they like? If you just say, oh yeah, I left a war zone, and then they look into it and say, well, you were just in Denmark. Good enough? Is it good enough? Like, is it like when people can self-identify as being First Nations and get a whole career out of it, like Buffy St. Marie, where nobody says anything? And maybe they'll quietly rescind your Order of Canada months later. But what do you need to do? And how do we ensure? Because that number seems really high. We are fourth in the world in refugees, in accepting refugees. We are the 38th largest country in terms of population. That is disproportionately high.
Here's what Grok quickly says. So take this with just a smidge of grain of salt here, okay? To qualify as a refugee, you must have a well-founded fear of persecution based on one or more of the following grounds: race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, gender, sexual orientation, political opinion, be outside your country of nationality. Alternative, you may qualify as a person in need of protection if returning your country would subject you to danger of torture, risk to life, risk of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. And it says key requirements: unable to seek protection in your home country, no safe alternative country, and not excluded, you may be ineligible if you have committed serious crimes, have already been granted refugee status in another country, have safe third country status. Under the Canada-U.S. Safe Third Country Agreement, you may be required to claim asylum in the first safe country you arrived in, such as the U.S.
Well, it's okay. So that right there, you may be required. You fucking well better. Like if you're leaving a war zone and your plane lands with 6 bullet holes in it, and luckily you managed to get to New Jersey. Well, you'll probably get a few more bullet holes by the time you're done taxiing, but that should be where you're claiming asylum. There shouldn't be a single person walking across the border between Canada and the U.S. who claims asylum in Canada. You name me one good reason why you couldn't make that claim in the U.S.
They're deporting everybody.
They're deporting everybody who's there illegally, not everybody who's coming in. Now, here's the thing. Okay, you're not being granted asylum. All right, well, now you can look into Canada. Fair enough. Right? You can look into it. But to just be like, yeah, I walked across at Roxham Road and I want to be declared an asylum seeker. Well, you were doing just fine back there 20 minutes ago. What's the problem?
Public Safety Minister recuses himself from files on 2 terrorist groups. The cabinet minister leading Prime Minister Mark Carney's border security push said Tuesday he is recusing himself from files related to Sri Lanka terrorist group and its Canadian Front organizations. In a statement sent to Global News on Tuesday, the Office of Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasanda, how the heck do I say that guy's name? Do you know?
Carefully. Probably wrong. I'm guessing
Probably wrong.
Ananda Sangari.
He stepped back from, we're like, the other Randy. This is quickly becoming the guy who's going to be in our headlines for what, the next 4 years, too? Like, this isn't going away anytime soon. Anyways, he said he stepped back from any matter related to the liberation tigers of Tamil Alim or the World Tamil movement. The minister did not explain why he had done so, except to state that it was out of an abundance of caution. Both groups he cited in his recusal statement have their origins in conflict in Sri Lanka, where he said he was born before coming to Canada in 1983 and becoming an activist, realtor, lawyer, and MP. The Liberation Tigers of Tamil Alim or LTTE, fought a 25-year civil war against Sri Lanka government, forced an attempt to carve a separate state out of the tiny island nation off India's southern tip. In 2006, Canada placed them on its list of terrorist entities, citing its terrorist attacks against civilian centers and political assassinations, such as the 1991 killing of former Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Ah, man, I'm just whatever. Welcome to Sean and Names this week.
Okay. All right. So good background, but here's the important thing is that under Mark Carney's new leadership, the Liberals and Ottawa in general, they're sitting up straight. They're taking notice. We talked about it where, he's requiring that when people show up to meetings with him, they show up prepared. He's making people show up to work on time. He's making them dress professionally. They're
Correct.
expected to follow the rules of the law. And now, when we have this random Sri Lankan idiot who presumably is in a potential conflict of interest, because that's not just any terror organization, that's a terror organization that he's in some way associated with, well, he's required to recuse himself from it. Now, the obvious question is, what the fuck do we have a sitting member of parliament needing to recuse himself from dealing with citing policy on a fucking terrorist organization in Sri Lanka? That's an important question. But I really like the fact that under Mark Carney's leadership, people are starting to take things like showing up on time, dressing professionally, being prepared, and recusing themselves from conflicts of interest. They're taking it seriously. And it's a new page for these guys, and I think it's great. The next step would be to ask why a member of parliament is somehow associated with a terrorist organization. But baby steps, we're on our way. We're going to get there. Just let us take this journey at our own pace. I think it's wonderful. Real quick, I just want to point out that this guy is the new Randy, and here is his latest thing. So Mark Garneau died last week. Damn shame.
It's my deepest condolences to the late Mark Carney, and as someone,
yeah.
I was sad to see the other Randy go, because I was just like, this story knows no bounds, like on how stupid it get. Enter Gary. We have Gary now, and Gary is going to entertain us for the days, weeks, mashups.
I feel like
ahead.
they're numbered. This guy,
I don't know. I thought that was the other Randy too, and he just kept showing up.
Yes, but here's the thing: is that there isn't a culture of Randys everywhere like there was with Trudeau. Now there's a culture of show up on time, of be prepared, and maybe don't accidentally forget that the prime minister of your country, the leader of your party, didn't just fucking die.
Come on, Gary, be better.
Well, that's
I think Gary's around. Gary's going to stay here for a bit.
Mark Carney,
we should take a bet. How long do you think Gary's in for? Folks, I'm curious. How long do you think Gary stays here? Let's bring it back up. How long do you think Gary is in?
And agree?
Yeah.
I think he's got 2 months.
2 months?
He is going to, here's what's going to happen, is over the next month, they're going to phase back what's happening with him. He's probably going to have meetings booked during question periods that he's unable to attend them, sadly. And there's going to be a month of radio silence, and they're going to do the unannounced shuffle. Like when they had the minister of middle class or whatever. And then people were asking, well, what is this job? What do they do? And they just quietly stopped having that ministry without actually announcing it. They're going to do a change where all of a sudden someone else is going to stand up there. Sean Fraser is going to stand up and say that he is the minister of safety. And this guy is going to be out, and they're going to just hope that nobody notices.
I'm taking the over. He's over. He is staying more than 2 months. Okay. It is June 13th. He is going to be back after summer.
He's going to be back. He's going to be back in the fall session. There is no way he's going to be back in the fall session. But I hope he stays. I hope he stays forever. I'm totally with you. This guy is a gift that keeps on giving. It's beautiful. Oh, I just wish that they would give this guy the microphone every day. He is, and this is saying a lot, he is probably the dumbest Liberal member of Parliament that I have seen in the past 12 years.
Gary, do better. And by better, I just mean
Gary,
you
be
keep
exactly
your
the
job, Gary.
same.
That's what I mean. Just don't find a way to get removed, Gary. I want you to be there over. I'm picking the over on 2 months.
Do you remember when that guy whipped his dick out on a Zoom meeting twice?
Yes. Correct. He's worse.
Smarter than that dude. When Catherine McKenna got penguins and puffins confused, smarter than that dude. When that guy wore blackface multiple times and said that the budget would balance itself, this guy is dumber than him.
Oh, man. Poor old Gary. Gary. Okay, Sir John A. Macdonald statue now visible outside Queen's Park for first time in nearly 5 years. The statue had been covered since it was splashed with bright pink paint in July 2020 in a summer protest following the murder of George Floyd. Across the country, statues of Macdonald, who considered an architect of the residential school system, became targets of vandalism. And last month, a committee that has been mulling over what to do with the Macdonald statue at the Ontario legislature voted to clear the statue and remove its covering.
Yes, so this is a picture of the plywood that was up. An interesting thing missing here is the spray paint that said Free John that dude is looking down the barrel of going to jail for. They actually did free John, and they didn't even mention in this article that had happened. I thought that was kind of a noteworthy omission, but maybe I'm just crazy. I care about this a lot less than you think I would, because I don't really care about Canada's history all that much anymore lately. I feel like it may as well be a foreign country.
Demand for energy to soar 44% from now to 2050, OPEC head says. The Secretary General of OPEC said Tuesday at the Global Energy... Haitham Al-Gas. Yeah. Global Energy, he said at the Global Energy Show in Calgary, the group projects global oil demand will surpass 120 million barrels a day by 2050. In our long-term projections, we see the forecast that global primary energy demand is going to increase by a staggering 44% from now to 2050. Our forecasts are not based on ideology. They're based on data and analysis of data, and they clearly indicate that oil would remain an integral part of the energy mix at around 30% still in 2050. He said.
Now, it's interesting because Justin Trudeau very recently said that there's no business case for this.
There's no business case.
There's no business case for this. And Haitham Al-Gas, we got a lot of interesting names this week. We got that one. We had the new street in Victoria, which sounds like the sound I make when I stub my pinky toe. Yeah, it's quite a lot. Quite a lot. Anyways, apparently there is a business case. This guy flew halfway across the world to tell us about the business case.
On to some goofy twos. Toronto man helping gunshot victim calls 911, gets put on hold for 10 minutes, gives up, drives the victim to the hospital himself. Victim in said hospital gets transferred to a different hospital and is dead. And that was a 15 or 16-year-old kid. Yeah.
Now, before we get to all the goofy news, I mean, first off, that's totally fucked. Hey, you don't call 911 to get we're sorry, the call center is experiencing unusual volumes. Please remain on hold and staunch the wound. It's insane. This country is just lost its way completely. There was a couple late additions. One of them, Carla Beck, leader of the Alberta NDP, which, as we know, is not a serious party. She's calling for the government to give a bunch of money to people whose homes have been displaced in the wildfires. The obvious thing to do here, look, I get it. The government has unlimited money and they can take whatever they want and they can just print more if they have a deficit. But if you actually want people to get behind this, especially in a place like Saskatchewan, you call on the communities. You fundraise. You ask people to help. That's how you do this. And by the way, having a NDP First Nations necklace seems a little bit cultural appropriation-y. But they're not a serious party. But they don't understand people. They don't understand how this works. Like, I've got a buddy who's lived in Laurent his whole life, and I was talking to him, and I was like, well, what's going on? And, are there any sort of, fundraising things? Can we talk about this on the show? Maybe try and get a few people to drum up some support for it. And he's like, I think there might be one for the Rona that burned down, but everybody right now is just worried about just getting through it right now, and they're not even thinking about rebuilding or anything like that. And yeah, the NDP, you've lost the plot. The solution to everything is more fucking government. No, the solution to everything generally is the community, your friends, your family, your neighbors. That's where the support comes from. That's where you get lots of help for things like this. And you lost the plot. Put your head on straight, NDP. And then the other one. Here, this one's good. Silver price soars above $36 US. Its highest in 13 years. So silver's at nearly all-time highs. So shout out to SGB.
Yes, Silver Gold Bull. If you're going to buy any silver, silvergoldbull.ca or .com, and reference the Sean Newman podcast. Proposed class action claims Uber Eats is overcharging Canadians. Uber Eats customers in Canada could be part of a new proposed class action lawsuit accusing the online food delivery service of charging hidden service fees. I mean, there's more. They just basically are adding fees into after saying they're not.
So the way it works is when you go to order something with Uber Eats, it'll say it's going to cost this much, and here's your delivery. And then at the very end, right before you hit OK, there's another little fee added on.
Yes.
Before you look at it and hit OK.
Correct.
So on the one hand, they're intentionally misleading people by hiding that fee up until the very end. But on the other hand, you're the person who hits OK. If you want $17 for someone to bring you a medium fries and a Coke, you're the person pushing the button to make that happen.
Yeah. I'm like, don't use Uber Eats. Like, yeah. I mean, like, what? Anyways, yeah, whatever. Single mom of 4. You want to show the video, or do you just want to comment on it? I assume you want to show the video.
Well, we're not there yet. We are at... Oh, no, we are... They're out of order. All right.
Come on, twos. Hey, come on. Here we go.
All right. Your heart goes out to this woman.
Single mom of 4 who are ages 21, 17, 12, and 11. I would like to tell you my story on how SNAP benefit has helped me. Sorry.
Go ahead. You're doing good.
When I had my oldest daughter 21 years ago, I was working 3 jobs. One job alone, I had to pay childcare. Another one to pay food, which wasn't enough.
Yes. This lady had a very large food bill. This lady pictured had a very large food bill. And she was able to get through with food stamps. And if it wasn't for food stamps, she would have very obviously starved to death.
You know, when I looked at this, I said to twos, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know where you're heading on this. Is that where you're heading? It's interesting when you're looking for somebody to talk about, benefits and like why they should keep them and why they're important, and you're choosing your spokespeople, you should be thinking about the twos of the world who are going to stare at that and go, something doesn't add up here.
Yeah.
Something really doesn't add up here.
I don't think that food stamps really made that much of a difference. You want somebody who looks like they just got out of a German prison from the 40s saying that they need food stamps. You don't want somebody that boats circle around with harpoons. That's living high hog off the government trough to mix 7 different metaphors.
Let's laugh a little. Can we show the? Yes, he's back.
you watched
All right.
it yet? Have you watched it yet?
No, I have not watched it yet. I clicked on him. Oh yeah, he's back again. So if you've not been watching the show for the last couple of weeks, well, let's see what happens.
There's this Irishman that I found to be absolutely hilarious, and apparently everybody else does too. And I saw like 6 videos of his this week. So hopefully he actually gets on Twitter soon so we can talk to him and get him on here.
Play the clip.
Is the best in the world.
Fucking liar! Irish beef is the greatest in the world. Do your cows even have fucking passports? I want a cow who's lived his life. He's seen the world. A cultured cow. If a cow hasn't had a 3-day hangover in Budapest, I'm not going fucking eating them. I want a cow who's seen the beauty of the world, but has also felt the hardship of trying to get onto a Ryanair flight with 11 kilograms of luggage. Oh wait, British cows do have passports. How embarrassing. I've had that outburst for no reason. Well, cows have passports. That's a fun fact. Follow me. I'm delicious.
That was that.
The guy's just fantastic. And I like the fact that I have no idea what's coming. That guy can... We at some point, we just need to get a hold of this guy and just invite him on the show to talk. He could probably talk for the
I've been
entire
trying
hour.
to track him down, but I can't.
Somebody's got to track this guy down. Somebody find this guy who's on TikTok.
He's on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not a big TikToker either. Yeah, that's fantastic. Chief Justice says he does not know who donated life-like bust displayed in Supreme Court.
We talked about this like 6 months ago.
Richard Wagner, who promised a new era of transparency for the Supreme Court, could not say who donated a lifelike bronze bust of him that sits prominently in the building's grand entrance hall. During his annual press conference Tuesday, Wagner also questioned how the gift could raise concerns of conflict of interest. I don't know who paid for that. So how can there be any conflict of interest?
See, that's a loophole. That is clever. I tell you what, we want smart people determining the direction this country goes in. That guy looked at it and said, well, technically, if nobody says where this $18,000 sculpture of me came from, I can't say it's a conflict of interest. The way the conflict of interest regulations should read is that unless you know who it came from, you can't accept a gift. And so, like, the obvious thing to do would be you would just put it out, do another National Post article and just say, if the donor of this $18,000 statue does not come forward in the next month, it will be melted down. That's all you have to do.
Here's Babylon B. Mexican rider adds lime to wedge Molotov cocktail.
Yes, which is just the best Babylon B thing I've seen in quite some time. And that's saying a lot because they're pretty good. Lime wedge to Molotov cocktail. So right now there's all these riots going on in LA over potential deportations. Just do your paperwork or go back, whatever.
CTV News. A new U.S. vaccine panel includes members who've criticized vaccines and spread misinformation. This might have been in the Happy News, folks. There you go. That's one of the guys that RFK Jr.
Yes.
He named 8 new vaccine policy advisors to replace the panel he abruptly dismissed earlier in the week. And one of them is Dr. Robert Malone.
Yep. And you're right. You're right. That could almost be Happy News. I want to point out, here's another fun little tidbit that got thrown in there. Dr. Robert Malone, et cetera, rose to prominence during the COVID-19 pandemic as he relayed conspiracy theories around the outbreak and the vaccines that followed. Conspiracy theories around the outbreak of COVID-19. Like maybe that it came from a lab? Is that the conspiracy theory around the outbreak that you're talking about, CTV? The one that has been almost universally accepted as not being a conspiracy theory? The one that Occam's razor
Are you trying to get us removed off YouTube
several years ago? No, I'm just asking which conspiracy theory. I'm not saying that it's correct. I'm just saying the one that's actually become the mainstream accepted version of where this coronavirus came from. Is that the conspiracy theory regarding the outbreak of COVID that you're discussing? And that's why he's not credible? Very interesting take, CTV. It's interesting that you didn't quite say it outright. especially considering there was only one main conspiracy theory regarding the outbreak, and that's that it came from a lab. Why wouldn't you speak to that? Odd choice, CTV.
Sydney Sweeney put on weight for Christy Martin biopic, and it all went to her boobs and butt.
Oh, that's just, don't you hate it when that happens? Like, I hate when I've been eating too many cheeseburgers and it all goes straight to my triceps.
I'm curious.
Okay. While you're looking up whatever you're looking up, here's the next one. Invisible smoke from Canadian wildfires detected over Europe, according to study. Invisible smoke. Now, given that smoke is particulates in the air, ash particulates in the air, they are basically by definition visible. So how could they be invisible? Were we burning down invisible trees that nobody knew about? What's going on here? Maybe people are just kind of full of shit when they say invisible smoke. Like, do we issue air quality warnings over invisible smoke?
Maybe we're going to cancel everything due to invisible smoke. You can't see it.
I hate how much invisible smoke there is in Canada in the wintertime.
I just thought I would here. Now let's remove you here. Okay, Sydney Sweeney. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's just horrible. That's disgusting. Can't believe.
And there she is in the new film.
Boobs.
If you
yeah, it all went right to her boobs.
Anyways, I was just curious. Like in the article, it didn't actually show a picture of her as the boxer. Twos, show the video of the minister getting confused. Oh, we already did that. Popeyes.
Yep.
Popeyes. Let's do Popeyes. Popeyes accused of using supplier that stored chicken in residential garages. A lawsuit filed against Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen is accusing the fried chicken chain of buying unsafe meat from an unauthorized seller that was allegedly stored and packaged raw chicken in residential garages in where? Ontario.
Yes. The interesting thing that the word that I was expecting, given the other coverage of this story, but it was just for some reason omitted here, is halal. The one thing this article fails to mention that got brought up in other renditions of this article is that if you read the other ones, it says the word halal, but it doesn't here. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying it's a curious choice to try and mask the truth as somebody who's supposed to be an objective purveyor of it.
Dr. Pepper recalls upgraded Dr. Pepper recall. Man, this is where twos can harass the headline. Dr. Pepper recall upgraded over serious health risk. A recall in cases that Dr. Pepper has been upgraded due to a serious health risk.
What is the health risk, Sean?
On Thursday, the FDA's recall was upgraded to Class 2, which the organization describes as a situation in which use of exposure to a volatile product may cause temporary or medically reversible adverse health consequences, or where the probability of serious adverse health consequences is remote. Although the cans produced by Jacksonville, Florida Pepsi Beverages Company were labeled zero sugar, they were found to contain the full amount of sugar that is in a regular can, which is around 39 grams. There you go.
Yes. So the zero sugar Dr. Pepper actually was just regular sugar Dr. Pepper. It was like the Diet Double Do, basically. And they had to do a recall of, what is it, like 47,000 cans or something like that, because they accidentally put the wrong label on it. It was supposed to be diet, but it was just regular. And they issued a serious health risk advisory because it was regular pop and not diet.
Lost RCMP memory key with informant details was offered for sale by criminals. The RCMP lost a memory key containing personal information about victims, witnesses, and informers, and later learned it was being offered for sale by criminals. A detailed report by the Office of Privacy Commissioner Philip Dufresne reveals the RCMP told the watchdog about the breach in March 2022, prompting a lengthy investigation. The probe found the encrypted USB storage device contained the personal information. Unencrypted. Sorry, that's a good catch. Thank you. Personal information of 1,741 people, including witnesses, complainants, subjects of interest, information, police officers, and civilian employees.
Yes. The commissioner says the Mounties agreed in principle to the recommendations, but did not commit to implementing them within a specific timeline. Other interesting thing missing from this is who the fuck lost their job over it. Presumably because it was nobody. When people talk about why they don't really feel a lot of love or support for the RCMP, it's shit like this. 1,741 people, including witnesses, complainants, subjects of interest, informants, police officers, and civilian employees. That's fairly sensitive shit. This is a big deal. And it's not as though somebody just found it on a park bench and turned it in, and it happened to be important. This was for sale. Criminals were selling this to the highest bidder.
Correct.
All right, what's next?
Two's wanted me to put this in there.
I didn't want to, but I guess if you do, that's fine. That's fine.
It's a text. It says, "What time are you coming?" And then it's a picture of Stuart Skinner, and then it says, "WTF?" What does that mean? It means I'm not showing up.
Oh, that's funny because the Oilers.
What about the Oilers? Twos?
Well, they kind of got off to a bit of a slow start, didn't they?
I believe the series is tied 2-2. Just saying.
I'm just saying they lost a couple back-to-back games.
How do you think the Calgary Flames goalies are doing right now?
Oh, they're probably doing just fine. Probably enjoying life.
Yeah, probably.
Not a lot of added stresses.
Liberals table bill to speed up approvals for major national interest projects. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government is granting itself new powers to quickly push ahead major projects the federal cabinet deems to be in the national interest. Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc tabled legislation in the House of Commons today, which would give Ottawa the authority to draw up a list of large projects it wants to prioritize and expedite their federal approval. Carney said it has become too hard to build new projects in Canada and vowed that this legislation will change it. We're in an economic crisis, Carter told news conference on Parliament Hill on Friday. We're still facing intensifying unjustified tariffs from our largest trading partner, and the best way to respond to that is to respond at home, build strength at home. Bill C-5, the Free Trade and Labor Mobility in Canada Act, and the Building Canada Act, is twinned legislation meant to break down internal trade barriers and cut red tape for major projects. The bill set out 5 criteria to evaluate whether a project is in the national interest. They include the project's likelihood of success, whether it would strengthen the country's resiliency and advance the interests of Indigenous peoples, and whether it would contribute to economic growth in an environmentally responsible way.
You know, I would say that the best way to handle this, okay, so they're looking at the problem. They're saying there's too much government red tape and nobody wants to build anything. Okay, well, what would be the best solution? Well, if you're the Liberals, you would say we would introduce other red tape to supersede the existing red tape, and that would help make things better for things that we hand pick through additional red tape. It's basically, if I could sum things up, that's more or less what they're doing. The obvious thing would just be to get rid of the
said red tape.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing this doesn't talk about is that Carney said that pipelines would only be built if all of the provinces involved agreed to it. He's giving the individual provinces vetoes over pipelines. We talked about this last week. The man is still an idiot, despite all the good things he's doing with making people with ties to terrorism recuse themselves from decisions about terrorists. He's still
Gary.
Doing this dumb shit.
Premier Mo just fully confirmed that virtually.
Just real quick. Why don't we put equalization to the same standards?
All provinces get a say?
If one province thinks that something the country is doing is not fair to them, they can single-handedly veto the entire thing. Okay, you know what? It's a dumb idea, but if you want to do it, apply it across the board. Let's throw equalization under that exact same measuring stick. Let's look at equalization and say that if one province, just pick one province, any one province, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland. If one province thinks that equalization is bullshit, well, let's just scrap it. Okay. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Premier Mo just fully confirmed that virtually all the fires in Saskatchewan are human caused and some intentionally. Well, I mean, Alberta did the same thing last year, right? We had Shane on talking about it, if I remember correctly. Now you have the Premier of Saskatchewan talking about how all fires are basically human caused.
Human caused. Well, look at the way forest fires just dropped. The number and size of forest fires dropped right off a cliff during the lockdowns. They've already arrested 2 people for the forest fires started in Saskatchewan. But it's climate change. It's not arson, it's climate change.
Carney, and it's causing invisible things to happen.
And it's causing invisible smoke. Will
Yes.
somebody please
Gotta be
think of
careful
the
of that
children?
invisible.
The invisible smoke is affecting the children.
Carney says all Canadians must come together around the values of Eid. These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values. You might want to play the video.
I don't. I just want to say that I do not give a shit about the mixing, the commingling of politics and religion, regardless of the religion. Don't care, doesn't matter. If you are a town, a municipality, and somebody says, well, what are you going to do about Passover? Nothing. It doesn't affect how the streets get cleaned from snow. It doesn't affect how the good water comes into your house or how the bad water leaves your house. We don't give a shit. We're not going to talk about it. It's not pandering. We're not going to do it for anybody. We're not going to do anything special for Easter. We're not going to do anything special for Ramadan. We're not going to do anything special for whatever Buddhists celebrate for holidays, Taoism, Zoroastrianism, none of it. We're here to keep the wheels turning on whatever group we are elected to represent. And that doesn't include taking time out of our very busy days. We're so busy, we're making the civil servants show up on time and prepared for meetings. We don't have time to pander to any, every, or some few religions. That's it.
Happy news.
All right.
I would sit here and argue with you for a few seconds, but I'm like, I told Twos I had an hour and a half because I got to go pick my daughter up from a triathlon.
Okay,
we
well,
just passed an hour and a half.
Get it right here. We don't really need the happy
I would
news
love I'd love to push back on this a little bit, but I'm going to go to happy news, and me and Twos will bring out this conversation a different day when I just have a little more time, folks.
All right.
Now
that could be fun.
Now here's one of the first happy news. This is the city added parking fees for the beach, so the residents protested. I can just play this, I think. I don't need any sound on this sucker. You can see I don't know, is that glue Twos? Is that what they did?
It looks like they just filled all the slots in it with spray foam.
Or is that spray foam? Is that spray foam? Geez, yeah. I didn't think. Okay, sure.
I mean,
something.
It's clever,
I
mean, the
machines
are
are inoperable.
Damn shame. I mean, you've got these perfectly legitimate civil servants who just want to charge people to park by the beach. All they want to do is just collect more revenue, and you're stopping them by vandalizing their machines. This is absolutely horrible, reprehensible. There's no reason why it should be in the happy news. Jimmy, why did you put this in the happy news? There's nothing happy about this. I'm going to fire him.
We might disagree on some things, but all Albertans and all Canadians are on the same page about this. We want the cup, or we want the cup. Let's go Oilers. Naheed Nenshi. There you go.
Oh, what a great guy. What an absolute class act. Look at the way he's just looking down on people while he's trying to be personable.
The thing is if the Calgary Flames were even in the playoffs, he'd probably be wearing a Flames jersey, but they can't seem to find their way into playoffs. So,
yeah. I think it's great the way, I mean, not only is the Oilers jersey the NDP colors, but you've actually got the leader of the NDP out supporting them.
Sticking with the Oilers, do you want to quickly show the Wayne Gretzky video? That is a feel-good video. You don't
Yes.
have to show it all. I don't know if you want to, but they
We'll
gave
show
out tickets.
we'll show a little bit of it.
Ticket for $1.
Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky gave wrong.
Him and his son Ty.
Gretzky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
$2. The box is yours.
You'll not be home tonight because the Gretzky family inviting you. Stanley Cup game today. Are we going?
You're going.
We're going.
You're both going.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, fast forward to when they're at the game too.
We can use the money.
Okay.
This is the
It's
best
Play La
day
Mamba,
of my
baby.
life. Oh, yeah.
There they are. They're meeting
They got the
Wayne.
big Gretzky. They got a jersey signed by him. And it would have been game one because towards the end of the video,
Yep.
towards the end of the video,
Towards the
you
end
can
of the
see
video.
the game winner and they're celebrating. Pretty cool moment. I mean,
Yeah,
for all
absolutely.
for all the silliness that professional sports want to bring into professional sports, that's a pretty cool video.
Yeah. And I mean, they must have looked for a long time to find a couple special needs Oilers fans.
Twos is so funny. Here we go. Hey, boys and girls, a little how you doing? A little OT magic from Leon. Oh yeah, look at that in the net. Let's go, game 5. Okay.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
All right.
enough.
Community notes. What do you got for us?
Oh, well, we've got the so there is a by-election in Old Didsbury Three Hills. And what had originally happened was I was all horned up to go on a big rant against the UCP because the one that was originally scheduled in Red Deer was canceled because they said they weren't going to go. And as far as I'm concerned, regardless of your political stripes, if you have a candidate running who's unwilling to meet and discuss what exactly they want to do for the community that they're supposed to
I
be
don't know, like the
representing,
federal Conservative Party in the last election.
like the federal Conservative Party in the last election, for example.
We crap on the NDP for not showing up, but the federal Conservatives didn't show up either. Carry on.
Yeah. And so anyway, that got canceled. And then they managed to find a date and time that worked for everybody. I guess they're still waiting to hear back from the NDP, which makes sense because they're going to have a pretty tough time in central.
So
central
all the
rural
calls
Alberta.
I'm missing from different candidates that want to come on the podcast. What you're saying is I should bring them all on together or try to have a bit of a forum on the podcast.
Well, they're having this now. Now it's in Olds, June 17th from 7 to 9. There is a by-election forum with commitments from all of. It's interesting because the
NDP
graphic
is
says
invited.
yes. So they've got commitments from all of the major runners, contestants, and NDP is invited but hasn't confirmed yet.
NDP. Bev Taves. Come on, Bev. Show up.
Also interesting.
Be like Gary. Show up.
Bill Tufts, the guy who wrote Pension Ponzi, he's running.
A friendly reminder that join us Saturday, June 28th for Airdrie's second annual car meet, calling all muscle cars, JDM, KDM, Euro, classic cars, supercars, cool rides, and motorcycles too. If you have one and want to show it off or just like to drool on them, then come on out. No registration required. Everyone welcome, all ages, free barbecue, rain or shine. If you're looking for a free family-friendly event, we'll see you at 1 p.m. Saturday, June 28th at 101 Highland Park, Common Northeast. And this event is hosted by Lift Youth Fitness. So there you go.
And just
brought
north
to you
of
by the
Airdrie?
Youth Committee. Brought
Yep.
to you by the Youth Committee of Airdrie East UCP Constituency Association.
Yeah, and just north of Airdrie, Crossfield is having their Pete Night Days. So they got the rodeo with the cabaret today, tonight, all day tomorrow, and the cabarets both nights.
I should before we sign off, I told you this, and I'll say it on live air, I guess. Tonight I get to go back to my hometown school and talk to get to talk at the graduation. So I get to give a grad speech, which is well, thank you to Hillmon for bringing me back. When you graduate twos, I don't think you ever have that in mind. That's certainly not one of my I didn't have
Well,
that marked on anywhere.
You don't really think, oh, you know what would be really cool is if in a couple decades they asked me to come back and give the keynote speech.
Yeah. And
you don't,
that's
yeah.
It's going to happen. So, shout out to
Congratulations.
Hillmon. Yeah. Well, we'll see how I do. We'll see if they boo me off stage first, eh? So either way,
You should just show up and just sound as crazy as possible and just straight turning the frogs gay.
I promise Hillmon I will not do that.
Oh,
Mashup
that's a damn
162 in the books, folks. We'll see you next Friday, as always, every Friday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tooz and I are here. Yeah. Appreciate you all being here with us. Make sure to share the show, and we will catch up to you on 163 next Friday. Tooz, till then.
See you later.
Woo! See you guys next week.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, pop and lock and salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map, stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the Mashup. Welcome to the welcome.